Okay, I wanted to talk about one could call it like another chapter in my work on the observation problem. Um, this has led me like to very profound places in the sense that so it started off when I started to realize that the paradox of observation where that what we have is a psychological experience of the world while the world is all physical, and that's like the whole idea of what you find in there's a beautiful saying line in the movie Total Recall where this guy that gives these people certain memories, experiences, and then he says that it's all indeed it's all a neuro log it's all neuro or all an experience. So it's all a psychological experience, and there's no way to disentangle the two worlds, the physical world and the experience of it. There's no way to do that. And if you so like my work has been more like a deep profound meditation in this almost like a cone, which in Tao is like a paradox. Where obviously the whole left brain rational approach to understanding collapses, and what you get is like deep um, reflections and moments of lucidity about this. So anyhow, this is like years and years of every day, like carrying this in my mind that has led to like ever deeper reflections about it, because science, the classical science, obviously chooses the way to like disregard this and then to just keep on trying to understand that physical world outside of us. But this is like this is why you get like Nobel Prize winners saying that we understand at most 4% of the universe or the world. It's not even the world. The whole idea of even that statement is inaccurate, because there's no world if you listen, if you really let it sink in that the world is physical, that we are having a psychological experience of the world while the world is all physical. Then the whole idea of the world is not nonsensical. Then you have to say it's my experience of something. I cannot say you. So what you get then is that more and more scientists are becoming aware, that are stuck in this game, are saying that we are basically going to we're recalling all our theories, all the products are being recalled out of the shelves, if you wish, and saying that they have to go back to the drawing board because they're all deficient. All these products, all these cans are not accurate. Like the first human being would come from Africa, or the DNA would be 46 chromosomes or whatever, or DNA would be the determining factor. Now we're hearing that it's your observation that determines DNA, which is like the whole complete opposite of what the whole medical biological world, scientific world is premised on. So we have a major problem, Houston. We have a major problem in the sense that you have people that are there trying to understand who is Yahweh, and who are aliens, and who are this and who are that, and it's just all inaccurate. And you hear it and you listen to the different people that are in this field talking, you just get it's a complete confusion, because you cannot understand the world by lose from yourself doing the understanding. So what I wanted to say is that um, so the paradox of thinking about your own thinking, it's just really the only thinking that's possible accurately. You're always thinking about your own thinking. It's just that you're not aware that you are what you're thinking about is your own thoughts. You're not aware that you're basically looking at your own thoughts, which is your own interpretations of things. You're reacting to your interpretation of the world. So the idea of that, okay, we think about thinking to go on thinking about the world doesn't exist. What the world is like a probability amplitude, a probability information, and so it's really not about theory. We cannot get to understand what reality is with theories or hypotheses, looking for the right hypothesis or the right theory about something outside of ourselves. So we have to rethink it all, and it's slowly but surely everything is being reeled back in, and people are saying it's all inaccurate and it's all wrong, and what are cells and what are atoms, and it's all based on this observation problem. So this is my statement. What I wanted to share today is that so we will the truth, meaning what is reality, can never be some theory, some substantial theory about something. It cannot be a theory about something. Cannot. So what you have, um, this is why all our hypotheses are wrong. What is possible is what is possible is that we are so what we need to look at is that it's not some theory about the world, but what we need to come to grips about is that whatever we believe is what we are going to be creating. So it's about the next level is about understanding that and seeing that what we believe is what we tend to realize. So it's not about what's the most accurate belief. It's now we are graduating to a level of consciousness where we're going to realize that it's not about the right theory, it's about understanding that the theory that you believe in, that you are going to invest in that and you're going to realize that.
Yeah, well, that's deep because people don't even think about theories really, because ultimately it's a belief for that moment. So nobody really looks at reality as it being a theory, because it's just one reality. People cannot believe that several realities at the same time would be possible.
Right.
That is just looking at one thing, and 20 people can have 20 different explanations for it. People will just always say, okay, now this is what happened, and they don't look at it as a theory.
Right. No, exactly. We're not even there yet. But in science, people do that.
Yeah, that's what they say.
Yeah, and then they look for idea. The idea is that you can then have a competition about what is the most accurate theory. That's what
Yeah.
science does.
Well, there's a lot of fraud at the universities
Yeah.
where they just start off with a belief and they end with it.
Yeah, but if we just take that as the current way we go about it,
Right.
defining reality is like the idea of what is the best theory.
Exactly.
And what I'm saying, you're right. Most people don't even know that they are that what they are thinking is a possibility. That's not the possibility.
No, I think that happens at school.
Exactly.
Long ago you told me this, that what you learn at school is just about a book some one person wrote, and we then accept that, all the children accept that as being the truth.
Yeah.
While it's just one person or four
Yeah.
people wrote that book.
Right.
It's just a book. It's just a theory.
Right. But this is so. But the idea is that that's like even more primitive level, which is like one could almost call that like college or so, where you have to regurgitate the theory, and then this is what it is, and then you regurgitate it and you believe it. But science is supposed to be a kind of a discussion about what is real, what theory is the best theory, and then you have the method, and then you use. And I'm trying to what I really want to get at is beyond that, and that is that approach is not. It does not lead to anything real because it is trying to know the world loose from the knower. And this is where the problem lies. So you understand that the whole of so we have our faith in science. So when you go to the doctor with cancer, you are assuming that this doctor has the best theory about, or the most updated theory about what cancer is. And I am saying that this is that there is no way of getting to know what cancer is as something independent of the researcher or the knower or the person that has it. What is possible, what is the next most accurate level of describing reality, is to say that we start to realize that we will never come to the most accurate theory, because that leads to postmodernism, where everybody has their own theory, and then it's a bigger confusion, because everybody says, well, this is what I believe, and that's what you believe in. So you have like 50 perspectives on something. And I want to take it beyond that, where I'm saying what is possible, what is the reality is that we it's not what theory is the truth, but you will never find one content as being the truth, which is like what religion does and what science is still striving after. But it's all about seeing now that what we believe, for instance, the theory that we tend to invest in, we are going to realize it. So it's no more an idea of what is the truth. It's the truth becomes whatever you believe strongly enough in will be realized for you. So if you, for instance, it's a belief. It's no more a theory. It's now the understanding of belief that you are going to realize. So that this is why this is the way the observer is included into the picture. This is the only way to include the observer into the picture, and then you're going to say, no, there's a theory, and there's someone that the observer that has it, and this is a self-fulfilling prophecy. What there is, the most accurate description of reality, is that reality is a self-fulfilling prophecy. That's the way you put the looker into the looked equation, and science tends to separate the looker from the looked, and then you have the theory, and then you say that cancer is that and that and that, and it's wrong. Then what you have at best is 10 different perspectives on cancer, and probably the perspective says more about the perceiver than whatever they're looking at. So now the next stage is that no, you have self-fulfilling prophecies. You're going to create whatever you strong enough believe in, regardless of what that belief is. So you see, then we also like snap out of the whole idea of religions trying to say I have the right belief. Science is basically doing that, but with a little more sophistication.
Yeah, religion has been around way longer than science. But what do you say if people say, okay, but I cannot pay my mortgage? That's a
That's a
reality.
no. That's a self. That is a. You see, that's exactly the whole point, because this is where the world is stuck.
Exactly.
This is where the world is stuck. We are stuck, and this is what I wanted to explain. When you what you have are quanta, which is a state, and you can be stuck at a certain state. If you are in a state where you tend to believe that the world out there is separate from you, that puts you at a lower frequency, a lower state. Energy can take on states. So the whole idea, for instance, of the mortgage situation, and the idea that you're going to that the for instance, that the banks are the sole culprit of the whole mortgage crisis, is a lie. That's the people that have been hoaxed into these bum loans are also part of it. You see, the idea is that um, it always is a field, and to look at it as something external to the perceiver is you could is the problem. There is no, you see, obviously that one individual has become part of a what I would call a field problem. But if enough people accept this corrupted banking system, then it becomes a reality. But if these people were to refuse to partake of that, you see, that's why this level of awareness is deadly, because you get yourself in situations and you do not realize how you are co-invested in these outcomes. And that's why in terms, for instance, of therapy, you would have a field understanding would be like this. We teach people how to treat us. Yes, the banking system is completely corrupt, but the the people that are consuming this product are part of this. You see, and this is why a whole lot of the current approach to fighting the elites and the New World Order or what have you is wrong. They're fighting basically the people really controlling the system are like pushing forward as being the problem. You see, it's
What you're saying, I think, are you saying in the sense that it's not the elites or the banks that have the power? It's because you also have that power.
yes,
You, because you are part of that
yes,
power system.
and that's what, obviously, if there were to be a little powerful group of puppeteers behind the conflicts, they wouldn't want you to know this, because this is the nature of reality. The nature of reality is that you go on to create what you believe. So the real effort is not science. The real effort is to get you to believe things. It's not to search for the right theory. They're going to create, they're going to peddle or push the theory forward as truth, so that you can believe it and you can create it. And this is the big problem right now. If you see, this is why the way out of this mess is not by fighting, for instance, the bankers or the church or anything like that. That's like that. But that would be the equivalent of someone that is fighting a spouse that they have heavily co-invested in creating, um, in terms of, for instance, abusive behavior or something like that. I just wanted to finish this piece, because if we were to say that what there is no theory, what there is beliefs. There's no right theory. There are more powerful and less powerful beliefs. What do we believe in has to become now the question. What beliefs are you operating in? Then you would say this, that reality Basically, what you have then is that reality is a self-fulfilling prophecy. Do you hear what I'm saying? If I say reality is a self-fulfilling prophecy, then we get to this actually to a new the new science, because when the new scientific understanding is, they talk about self-organizing systems, which is Ilya Prigogine. You talk about autopoiesis, Francisco Varela, which is self-organizing cells. You get, so the real theories are going to tell you that there is no cell as such, something independent. There is a self-organizing field that is creating its own reality. So reality becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You are going to fulfill the story, the belief that you most strongly believe in. And now, you see, and then, now it gets interesting, because then the game becomes what prophecy, what belief, what story do you believe in? This is why I said in a prior post of mine, I said that it's the post where I had a dream, and in the dream, I was talking to Obama, and then Obama told me, he says, okay, so if there is an order that is loyal to the higher frequencies, you see, then you speak in energetic terms. This whole approach leads to energy and levels of energy. If he says, if there is a higher order that is loyal to the higher frequencies, why does that have to involve Christianity? And then I told him, right, I said, it's not. It does. You don't have it. One does not have to call it a Christianity or anything else, because that's falling into this fallacy of there's one belief. It's the Christian belief, or is it that, or it's the same way as saying cancer is a virus, or cancer is a fungus, or cancer. That's just the whole. That's the problem. I said, it's a. It's all. It's what it really is a story of the self. So what we have here is that the self goes, the myth that captures this reality is what I call the Eurobaric cycle. So what you have is this self that falls out of this original wholeness, which would be people that would be living in myth, conscious that they are living in myth, which would be like the Hopi Indians. And then they fall out, and then you get the Western people that have fallen into this illusion of the separation between observer and observed. And this is where you get the whole scientific thing. But a point comes where we go beyond that fallacy, that observation problem, and we start to realize that you cannot know the world independent of the knower. You see, these are the stages of the self, the story of the self. The only vessel that can contain observer and observed is story. See, and then this is the way we start to go back to the indigenous people, because they understood this. That it boils down to, when we really graduate to the next level and stop, imagine just taking a theory and thinking it's truth. That's like yet more pathetic. Then you have the scientific game, which is like totally wrong in terms of observation, and then you have this where you say, okay, what you believe you're going to create. So the indigenous people, their belief was not a church, it was a myth, a story. They belonged in a certain story cosmically, and that was the story they had to live and uphold and create, and they knew that this is what they were creating. So you have the self-fulfilling prophecy, and here, this is what happens. The whole thing can be hijacked, where you can be hoaxed into fulfilling the wrong prophecy, the wrong story. That's all there is. Because the nature of reality is that you are going to create your story. If you get your act together and fulfill your true story, nothing can intervene there. But there is a possibility to hijack the process where someone would put you to fulfill the wrong story. But there's no truth as a theory. There is what there is, what they are so basically what they are two self-fulfilling prophecies. Basically, that is what it would boil down to: the true one, and then obviously in terms of opposites, you would have the false one. That's what it is available to our to remain consistent with this reasoning. There, what it are what it boils, and this is what people obviously talk about as being the false one and the true one, or the false timeline and the true timeline. They're two basic myth store prophecies that the human being carries within the collective unconscious, and that they can manifest or not, talking about the whole planet now. And the false story would be then what everybody is talking about as a false rapture or a false ascension. The ascension would be that by truly fulfilling that prophecy, the true purpose, the true one, the one that we that what is our story, that we would then generate an upgrade back to the top of the cycle of the Euroboric cycle. Or you would be hoaxed into believing the anti-prophecy. You see, there are only two possibilities in the collective unconscious. And then you would be hoaxed into fulfilling what would then be the wrong, the inverted story of what you would really be about. The human being, exists at its core in terms of this story. There's no way to disembed yourself from that. This is our true purpose. It's who we are. It's almost like when people individuate and they find their true self. It's like finding who you truly are. Or you can be living in a false self-image, an imposter. The other day I was looking at impersonator is the word. I was looking at an impersonator of Michael Jackson, the best in the world. And he was like, it was almost like Michael Jackson. So just incredible. You could almost not see the difference. And this guy does like hundreds of shows a year, and he would even be the double with Michael in terms of tours, so that people, Michael could get away because this guy looked so much like him. But at a certain point, I was like, something was just dawning on me, because I started to realize that this was like the perfect clone of Michael Jackson. And he could be almost perfect, but he himself said at a certain point, because he's like bigger than life, because Michael was bigger than life. So he's bigger than any other artist, because Michael was like so much bigger than the rest. But then he himself said at a certain point, he says, but I have to live in the shadow of Michael Jackson. And Michael just has to be himself. Michael just had to be himself, and that was, you see. And so this is the whole thing here. You have the true self and the false self. The impersonator will never be the real thing. You see, and this is where we get the false self-fulfilling prophecy and the true one. Or people would talk about the true Christ and the Antichrist. And everything in the false prophecy is identical to the true one, like this impersonator, until you really look good at it. And then it's fake. You see, and then the true, this is where we can be hostage or imprisoned.
Or fall.
Right, because we create reality. So you can make us create the wrong reality, but you cannot create reality for us. This is the whole thing.
It's a paradox.
Yeah, but this is why the human being is is a very incredible being, because we are creating our reality.
So then the obvious question is, which one is the right, because they look so much alike.
Yeah. And
so how do you know which one is the true
right
direction you have to go?
because this is
or how do you know you're on the wrong?
this is the right question. Science would then realize, take a next step. We needed this. We direly needed science. Don't, please, this is because without this process of becoming a split, separating conscious and unconscious, observer and observed, without falling in dualities, we could not become self-aware.
No, I agree with that completely.
So we needed people on there's so the whole of the Western development, which is basically what gave birth to the individual. Without that, there would be no self-awareness. But it's almost like the caterpillar that has to now shed its skin and give way to the next level of evolution, which is the butterfly. Now, that whole effort of science has to then realize that, okay, there is another step to be made, and that step has to be with self-awareness, self-responsibility, and finding the true self, the true story. You see, and what happens, this is what I wanted to share shortly, is that, so what you have is that how do you snap out of it? How do you get into the right timeline, or the right prophecy, self-fulfilling prophecy? Is that you see, there's the problem lies in the mind. The problem is not outside of us. You see, if we were to get this act together and really make that leap outside of what I call the matrix, then we would just go on to create our true purpose. You wouldn't have to fight anything or anybody. That's totally the truth is, what you fight becomes stronger. If you fight demons, that's the way to get stronger. If you fight anything, you make it stronger. That's the whole point. That a major part of the hoax is to get us to fight each other. People are, this is a part that I wanted to share about a few days, but why, for instance, why are things hidden in plain sight in the movies? It's because the real power behind everybody wants you to fight the movie makers. This is why they're via a kind of inception. They're planting ideas into these movie makers' minds and making and bringing everything out, and the whole idea, the whole Occupy movement, the whole uprisings in the Middle East. It's too obvious. When you become real, then you see that this is like it's too scripted. It's too scripted for the banks to then all of a sudden all of the corruption comes out, all of these whistleblowers come out, and then we want to destroy the banks, and then you have the Pope calling for a world bank, central bank. It's too scripted to then it's just people are like, it's like there's this a new level of conflict being created, but the people in the back remain in charge.
Unless you take away the whole banking system.
But which would be like totally avoid wrong, because it's the mind that has created this. It's almost like saying that I'm going to take all the people right now in the top positions of all organizations and lock them up, and then we put new people there. They're going to do the same thing, because the mind is locked. This is what I wanted to get into shortly. The mind is locked in a level, in a quantum state, or in a level of awareness where they will just, it's like arming the rebels, and then the rebels become worse than the dictators that they dethroned. This is the story of the Middle East.
It's Bin Laden.
Obviously, the point, so what I wanted to say is that what really has us blocked from reaching to the true self-fulfilling prophecy, which would be the timeline to what people are now calling the Stargate, to a whole new level of reality, is that we have been taught to um, to label our thoughts and feelings. You see, the whole idea of being the division of the observer and the observed is part of this, what you call this Cartesian coordinate system with the x and the y. So we are operating in that grid, which keeps us locked into what is called the matrix. So whether you change the people at the top of the banks with the people at the bottom or not, people are operating in this matrix system in their minds, fighting things outside of themselves, not realizing that they created it. So what happens with your feeling? This is what people can really do, practice, and that is that feelings have been divided in, we label them. The moment you label, feelings are really pairs of opposites. So you get that in every feeling or thought, you get that happy and sad is one. So what happens is that we have been taught to operate in this system of labeling, and then we would separate. The moment we label a feeling, we call it, for instance, sadness. Automatically, we separate the pair in the sadness and happiness. And the moment we do that, then we're going to resist one of the two sides and prefer the other. And it's that separation in ourselves that takes us out of the it makes us drop a notch in frequency of energy, which is what locks us out of what we would call the true self level, which is the level that is connected to the real prophecy, the real story, our true story. So when you get angry, for instance, what you're doing is that the moment the anger is immediately juxtaposed to the opposite, which would be fear. And then you get that the anger, then you're supposed to not let to realize that the anger is not you. It's part of an opposite. It's a pair, and you need to so by doing that, you would let the anger, not, you wouldn't over identify with it, and you wouldn't reject it either. You would just be it. You would let it, so you would use it instead of it overtaking you.
Use it how?
Well, but if you accept the anger but not over identify and not reject its opposite, it becomes passion, or it becomes controlled anger, which is a very good thing. But right now we are locked into this Cartesian coordinate system in which we tend to separate these pairs of opposites, which are feelings. So one feeling is a pair, but our whole labeling system divides it into opposites, makes one good and the other one bad. And this process of inner division is what is keeping us locked into the observation problem, and locked out of the higher frequencies, which is where we realize that we are the one that is fulfilling the prophecy that we are living. So there is a vested interest in maintaining conflict, separation, splitness, and feeding us while doing that, and while rapturing us into the lower frequencies, feeding us with the false prophecy, which people are then going to manifest and create.
What is the false prophecy then?
Well, the false prophecy is the whole idea of, the whole idea that you're seeing now with in the Olympics, that there was this statement made that there is going to be a landing of aliens and that they're coming to save us and help us, and that we were not able to fix it on our own, and it's a complete hoax. That's like
people don't know what's right and wrong no more.
Right, because they have lost access to that level in themselves because of this problem of how to manage your inner life. Now the whole scientific game is to look outside and to manage things outside of yourself. If science were to really get in touch with this next state, we would realize that the most important thing is to manage what's going on in your mind.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would label that as being negative. If you have to always compare the two opposites, because if we're like on a happy wave, then you're gonna bring in sadness. Then there's no happy no more.
Right, and this is
That's not nice.
no, and this is why the why what whilst having to make the descent to the into duality to become self-conscious, it was at that deepest point of split and thus disconnection of true self and source that we could get caught because
When you split.
yes, because then the system that now is ruling us mentally in our minds is to keep these opposites apart.
Yeah.
Because it's not only happiness that people want to have. People that are depressed want to remain in their depression. And whatever pole you're hijacked into, you want to hold on to. People that are very sad don't want to get out of their sadness. People that are extremely manic don't want to deal with their sadness and or get out of their manic state or their anger. But if you see, but the whole point becomes then that the self
There's no choice.
there's no
I
choice.
think you were talking about that when once you're caught in one opposite, there's no more thinking, no more. You're on automatic pilot, and there's no choice.
That's it.
You're just stuck.
That's it, and that's the whole thing, and that's where the human being, if you look at all these movies, that's where the human being can basically be turned into like a virtual robot in terms of just totally mind controlled. And it's because once the mind is split, each individual fragment has no self will and no volition, because you only get self will at the level of self when the self comes together. So only the whole self has free will and choice, real choice. The other ones are just in a reactive mode, being hoaxed into what Chomsky would call manufactured consent, or some kind of a saying yes. It's like someone that is saying yes, I want something, but they don't even know what they're choosing, because it's like this shooter in this Dark Knight shooter. It's just a blank thing there. There's in a kind of a trance. But so this is very important. Is that if we stop this idea of looking out there, loose from the self, then the self becomes the sacred focus. And then we realize that we need to learn how to manage these feelings. And we know now that the whole theory regarding emotions is wrong, because they look at them as separate parts, just like how in mathematics the whole Cartesian system is wrong, because you look at the y and the x separate. You see, so when we separate these emotions or these parts of ourselves, which I've often talked about as the yin and the yang, we are caught in that coordinate system, which is the spin, which is the spider web. You see, and this is where the stories are going to tell us where we're at. We get stuck in the spider web, which is the system where things are separate, and then we get stuck in the trends. The trends are these functions on the x and y axis. And these trends are basically then these fragmented parts of ourselves that have no choice and are just following whatever is out there being shown as what should be the trends. Then you get this imposter, this impersonator that is following Michael Jackson to the T. We become these impersonators.
Joker.
Yes, but when we start to stop labeling the emotions, we start to realize that whatever we are seeing out there is us, and whatever is in us is part of another pair that we need to embrace. Then what happens is that we jump from that plane. This Cartesian grid is a plane, is a quantum state. We jump to a higher state, a higher frequency. And at that frequency, we become sovereign, because then we become conscious fulfillers of our true story. Individually, it would be each and every one of us fulfilling the role, the true role that we have to fulfill as the true self, and as a collective, we would fulfill our true story. But if you remain in the spider web, and then you're by 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 splitting you are yet more raptured into lower levels than that grid, which is what is now happening. What we know now from the two prophecies is that one prophecy is impersonating the true one, but doing that in terms of a rapture into a lower world. Just like the true one is supposed to lead us to a new world, which would be then a world beyond dualities, mutually exclusive dualities. So there's a huge amount of people that are being caught up in that web and then raptured lower, and that are actually looking in very current terms, looking at this whole idea that aliens are going to be landing here and take us along or provide solutions. They're experiencing that as the right reality.
Correct.
But these are impersonators. They are trying to impersonate the true line, which indeed is that we are going to be that there's going to be a rapture of sorts, and one could the imagery that is emerging regarding this is a kind of a vessel or a UFO that people are going to achieve to get into that next level of reality. These two stories. And the problem is that people have been lied to regarding this, what I call this self-management. We're living now off of, we're living in that grid, disconnected from self, and we have been completely trained to keep the poles apart.
Yeah, that's true. So a major red flag would be then if you're just not thinking no more and you're just executing a program.
Yeah.
Then you can say that you should tell yourself, wait,
Yeah.
I'm stuck here. And
Well, if you really do the work, I call it self-responsibility or containing the shadow. You would.
what about I think people would like see, okay, I'm depressed or so, but what about the people that are like very manic? I don't think a lot of, because let's say you have a whole bunch of people that are really like very manic and everybody does the same thing, and nobody would like question that anything's wrong with that.
No, absolutely
They
not.
don't even think that's a part of the opposite.
No, and they're not even in the question mode, the self-question mode. They're completely stuck in what I call reflexive mode, meaning just reacting to what's outside of them. So this is why in my 7 steps,
Yeah.
the the first step is to step back and reflect. And people, you see, even people that are practicing this, it's very easy to lose touch with it, but it's a practice. You need a practice on realizing that what you are seeing out there is your interpretation. You can
All the time.
all the time, and you need to constantly be practicing also the idea of these opposites in yourself. And you need it slowly but surely. You start to in reflective mode. The reflective mode, people would call that the witnessing awareness. You're witnessing what's happening in your life. That's the true self. Um,
Witnessing?
yeah, the you're witnessing means you're observing your own thoughts. So you're standing back and you're looking at yourself in a situation. And that's the field. And if you're and the true self is that third person. You see?
It could also be another fragment of you.
Not if you practice it in the right way. Not if you practice it in the right way, right? There is two ways that people are now being sold. The false timeline is selling people what I call the bliss out formula, which is the zoning out.
Yeah, don't think.
Right. Don't think and don't worry with so they're also teaching people what you're feeling, don't feel it, like forget it.
Yeah,
And the whole idea of
let
these,
go.
yeah, and the aliens that so-called want to land in London are their teaching is forgive and let go, and it has to all be love and light, and which is like the way to zone out to go from reflexive to completely lower fourth dimension.
Repression.
Right, but then people construe that as true bliss. This is why
Yeah.
it's complete. So many people are being
So what would, instead of forget and forgive, what should
right.
you do?
The true what I call zoning in would be then that you realize that that anger that is overtaking you is that you do not over identify with it, but it's almost like lucid dreaming. The true approach is not denying the feeling, but neither letting the feeling completely dominate you. So it's like the dreams. You don't dream and then you become lucid by denying the dream. This approach of lucidity is flowing with the dream, understanding its meaning, but not letting it control you. Like letting the anger flow because it's there to help you. To repress it would be terrible, but to not let it conquer you. You see, so there, what it, you automatically then go in a kind of a third person because you are not your anger.
No, you're looking at your anger, maybe.
Right.
Hopefully you start to think about
Yeah.
your anger. What is your anger? Why?
Yeah. So then and also you don't deny it, but you don't let it conquer. So it's called controlled anger. And what that does is that at a certain point, you start to be able to exist in between these two poles. Then you really, okay, I'm angry, but it's almost like it's not me. It's a part of me, but it's not me. When you become fully that fragment that is the anger side,
Then you're particle.
yeah, then you're
Then you
lost.
split.
And right, you see, so the false approach is to let you zone out of that. For instance, forgive, and I'm very angry at what has happened to me in my past, but forgive it. No, forgive it means to wipe away the memory. What?
Yeah.
No, you need to suffer that anger, meaning you need to live it, but don't let it control you completely.
You need to remember.
Right. So then, what you get then, you would have then the anger would come. You would give it a venue, but you would not let it control you. Meaning, you would also be in touch with the opposite of it, because wherever there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of fear. You see. So this is how you start to learn how to carry that paradox or the cross, and then that is what, if you keep those poles, the moment you're in the third person, you're out of that spider web, out of the matrix, and then you're going to connect to the true timeline, the true self-fulfilling prophecy. There's no return to some mode where there's something out there and then we have to fight. You see, this is no, we're not going to fight anything out there. Then you go into a level of frequency where anything down there cannot get at you. Why would you fight that? You ascend in frequency, and at the highest frequency, the idea is that there is sovereignty, meaning there is this collective consciousness which has become aware of itself and reconnected to source, and this is this ultimate almighty infinite awareness energy that is able to create whatever it wants to, and that's heaven. But that's not anymore a group of people that are fighting something out there. That's heaven. So the whole approach of the whole part of the hoax is to get you to fight something outside of you.
Is it good? Should you fight with yourself then?
Yes, it's called self-talk. The poles, the yin and the yang, need to fight with each other until they start to realize that, hey, listen, that anger needs some fear. The fear is going to tell the anger, hey, you're going overboard. You need to realize that what you're running away from is me, and you need some of me.
Mm.
So the masculinity is going to say, I need some of the femininity, and you see, and then you get the fight becomes a dialogue, and the dialogue then becomes uh, touching of the opposites, and then you get the synergy, which is the true
And
self.
the tension becomes less then. I guess when you're like angry, then you're in high tension.
High tension.
And then you don't know that you're actually fear. You didn't. You're
Yes.
repressing your fear, that you're fearful.
And you're going to project everything outside, and then you're angry at something out there. But so the real thing is your mind. If it's this matrix in your mind that is the problem. It's the matrix in your mind that is the problem.
Mm.
And people relapse into the first person perspective, which is the particle state, and then that is always going to be reflexive, meaning something out there is going to be the cause of everything in my life, and then I'm going to lose the whole consciousness that no, whatever is out there, which doesn't even exist at the wave level, that is triggering in me certain feelings that are mine, that I need to flow, I need to process them. If it's anger, I need to feel it, but not let it overtake me. The bliss out approach is going to tell you forget, forgive, be positive, move on. Don't be angry. No, you need to be some angry.
You need to remember that.
Yes.
That is part of you.
It's all.
You have to understand it.
Yes, they're all fragments that you need to admit, but the fragment may not become the.
You are not a fragment.
No.
No.
So you're going to look at it, you're going to feel it, you're going to live it, and then you reintegrate it back into your wholeness. And when enough remembering, reintegrating has been done, then you reconnect to the wave. And the wave is the true timeline. And so the whole effort, the way the West has been caught into this lower frequency, or are being kept there, is in diversion, is in distraction. The moment, wherever your attention is, that's where you are. So if your attention is out there, you are out of your body.
Yeah, focus.
So the focus is, the whole idea is to constantly remain conscious that what you're perceiving is your thoughts, and that is going to put you to the third person, and the third person exists in a different cloud, in a different reality. So what you have are clouds, realities, and we switch channel, but you're not going to achieve change at the level of in the cloud of the duality, in the Cartesian grid, by fighting the other. But at the deeper levels, that's what it really becomes. So that's why beings at the lower levels, they are vicious, because they are blaming everything and everybody out there. This is why we have symbols of insects that are that live off of other insects. You see, that's what happens. Slowly but surely, you become a complete prisoner of the surrounding, to the point where you need to live off of others to survive. While at the higher frequencies, you get complete independence. The higher frequencies, um, you would I've seen in my dreams that we are charged by what is called the great light, or the white sun, directly, like almost like a plant is eating the light in photosynthesis. People have totally misconstrued that as in terms of sun gazing. But the real light, the what they call the white sun, we connect to that when we connect to the wave state. And that's the true energy, the true free energy. That's not some free energy that you are going to have to be plugged into via some wireless or wire outside of yourself. At the wave level, the free energy is in you, within. This is why the people always often ask me, okay, what about computers and all of this stuff? And I say we need it now, but this is like really a talking about impersonating the true thing. This is really medieval. The high tech is still completely a cartoon in comparison to the true high tech, which is how we connect to that true source, which is inside. Everything is going to, the more the false timeline is going ever more to a singularity, but where the energy is coming from outside of you. Every gadget that you see here is, there's wires everywhere, and what we learn in the dreams, that the wire is really something very primitive and evil. Evil in the sense that these a machine cannot self generate. It is completely dependent on the surrounding. So the true technology in the next level is going to be a technology that is truthfully, you cannot see it, but it's the real magic, if you wish. You know, like if you were to need to walk through a wall, a door would manifest, and in this highly mechanical world of total recall, you would have then some software from a mainframe have to do that for you. Like I said, the Cirque du Soleil without strings. And no matter what, no matter how advanced this mechanical technology goes, it will always be powered from outside. Strings, there will be strings, even if they're wireless. Okay, I just wanted to end by saying that what I've noticed in a lot of people that are at the forefront of let's call it, of the revolution, like the five-star generals and people that I have a lot of admiration for. But I've noticed that a lot of them are like turning to the side of the mind and consciousness, and I'm very, very happy about that, because this is really where the the the, the direction has to go to. It's no more. We need to go ever more less. We need to expose the lies, which is absolutely. But in order to get people out of the lie, but not to fight anything or anybody. Even we know now, even the beings that exist at a very low level, which could be called the demons, even they, one, should, if you fight them, you make them stronger, but also but even they need to be helped. And that should be the right approach, posture, and we need to not let any puppet masters make us fight against each other, no matter what, even if it's Congress or bankers or whatever. We need to now go behind the game, the conflicts. It's divide and conquer, and stop letting anybody create the division in you. And when you stop being divided in your mind, you will move on to the right timeline, and in that timeline, nobody can interfere. That is what is true sovereignty.